I am Jim Collison and live from the Gallup studios here in Omaha, Nebraska. This is Gallup's Called to Coach, recorded on May 15th, 2018. Called to Coach is a resource for those who want to help others discover and use their strengths. We have Gallup experts and independent strengths coaches share tactics, insights, and strategies to help coaches maximize the talent of individuals, teams, and organizations around the world. If you have questions during this live webcast, we do have a chat room. It's right below the main video window if you're watching us on our live page. Easy to get logged in, and we'd love to have you logged in. There's a handful of you, maybe two handfuls of you in the chat room now. We'd love to have you jump in there. Bottom left-hand corner is a login button. Choose that. Choose the guest account. It'll say guest in a number. Take that out. Put your name in. Then hit submit, and you'll be in our chat room. We'll be taking live questions from you. It's a lot more fun when you join us in there live. If you're listening to the recorded version or have questions about custom strengths coaching solutions, send us an email, coaching@gallup.com, or use the contact form right there on the live page. Don't forget to visit the Gallup Strengths Center, just gallupstrengthscenter.com for all your CliftonStrengths coaching resources and training needs. You can also catch the video and both streaming and downloadable audio for offline listening. We call that podcasting, and Scott does one of those, so we'll get a chance to talk about that. That's available on our coaches blog, coaching.gallup.com. One more thing, don't forget, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts app, we'd love to have you rate, review, and subscribe. That way you get it automatically. If you're on an Android device, there are plenty of podcast apps to be able to get that done. You can download those. Listen that way. If you're on YouTube, really important to subscribe to the channel, because that way you'll get notifications whenever we go live on our live channel or when we produced a video on our recorded channel. Those are both available there. If you just hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, that'll get you in as well. And if you listen to us via Spreaker, just follow us over there and you'll get notifications as well. Scott Mackes is our guest today. Scott's the founder of StrengthsMugs. You've probably seen those in our Facebook group from time to time. And the more important job, he's the founder of the Service Academy Business Mastermind group. Super excited about that because of my military background. Scott, great to have you on Called to Coach, and welcome.
Thanks, Jim. It's an honor to be here.
Well, it's an honor to have you. I think our relationship goes back a ways. You've been in this strengths movement for a while. I remember meeting you on campus here during a training session or something. I'm trying to remember the first time we met way back in the day. You've been doing this a while. Thanks for doing it.
You're welcome. I think we met about 4 years ago to the date. I flew into Omaha on a Sunday afternoon or evening, and we met downtown Omaha. It was just me and you took me out to dinner and showed me the town. I really wanted to see, Warren Buffett's headquarters there at Berkshire Hathaway at the Kiewit Plaza. You took me by there, and it was really a lot of fun. And I really appreciate you taking time out of your Sunday to show me the town. And then Monday morning, I reported for the Gallup Certified Strengths Coaching Accelerator course. So
it's good to have you. Back in the day, that was maybe a little more scalable, as we had maybe a few hundred coaches, and of course now we have 5,000 certified coaches in there. And I actually am still open to do that. A lot of time, if coaches come into town, you're going to be in Omaha, let me know that you're coming, and a great opportunity to spend some time on a Sunday night or get a meetup going. Scott, we didn't come to talk about that. We kind of came to talk about you. Most folks want to know who you are. I told a little bit about the jobs you do, but your top 5. So let's start with your top 5, and then we'll get a little background on you as well.
Sure. Yeah. So my top 5 strengths, number 1 is competition, includer, futuristic, achiever, and self-assurance.
Very cool. And then tell us a little bit about your background. Let's just go back a few. How'd you get to the coaching? What'd you do before that?
Sure. Yeah. So I grew up in Maryland. I live in Boston today, but I grew up in Maryland and went to college at the Naval Academy in Annapolis and graduated there with the class of 2001. And following graduation, I served in the Navy for 5 years, and then got out of the Navy in 2006 and have been in the corporate world in either management or sales management positions for the last 12 years or so. And, so about 5 years ago, I started a coaching business, kind of part-time on the side, just looking to build something outside of my day job. And I thought coaching was just a great way to connect with some new people. And it kind of gave me some meaning, outside of what I was doing back then. And somewhere in between then and now, I launched the StrengthsMugs online store, and also have built up my coaching business, and really kind of have taken that to the next level this year. So things things are going pretty good. And, it's just great being affiliated with you guys and all this support that you've given me in my endeavors.
Yeah, well, you're welcome. Thanks for your service. I got to say that as well, and I appreciate what you did while you were active duty. The let's go back. We're going to talk a little bit about your coaching. We're going to talk a little bit about the StrengthsMug business because I think there's some interesting things in both of those. I mentioned early in the intro about this Academy's mastermind, or the Academy Mastermind. Can you give folks that are listening some idea what is that and kind of what's its niche? We spend a lot of time talking about niching down in coaching, and this is a great niche I think you've jumped into. So give us a little bit of the background, how you got into that and why, and give us a little composition of the group as well.
Sure. Yeah. So when I launched my coaching business about 5 years ago, it was very unsuccessful for the first few years, just trying to figure out, what coaching was, how I could help people who I wanted to coach. And, I think like connecting with Gallup and the Strengths Finder assessment, I mean, that was, that really helped kind of give me some credibility out there, in the coaching environment. But still, it took me a while to figure out exactly who I wanted to coach and who I wanted to work with. And what I came to realize after about 3 or 4 years was that I really enjoyed working with people that were kind of like me, that had similar challenges, a similar background. So I went to a Service Academy, and the clients that I had that were Service Academy graduates, I just really enjoyed working with them. They showed up to the calls on time. They were motivated. I understood their background because, I have a similar background. And so, I really enjoyed working with Service Academy graduates. And I also really enjoyed working with Service Academy graduates who were building businesses, kind of like me. And so that was the niche that I really wanted to focus on. And so,
Scott, can you explain when we say Service Academy, we're a global podcast.
Sorry.
So that's okay. Let's just tell who is that when you.
Yeah, so Service Academy graduates come from the Naval Academy, West Point, Air Force Academy, Coast Guard Academy. So they're smaller schools. So there's about 1,000 people in each class. And, it's a very rigorous 4 years at these schools. And once you graduate, you serve as an officer in whatever branch that you, for the school that you went to. So I went to the Naval Academy. So then after graduation, I served, I was obligated to serve 5 years in the Navy. So that's what a Service Academy graduate is. There's probably about 150,000 of them throughout the world. And probably 10% of those are entrepreneurs. So, so looking at it from a niche or a business perspective, my target market is about 15,000. And so that was like the niche that I really wanted to focus on and wanted to help. And so about a year ago, I actually reached out to you. I'm like, hey, Jim, I want to start a podcast. And I had started one previously and it wasn't that great. And, you helped me like with what mic to get and all this sort of stuff, helped me get set up. But I started a podcast, and that's how I launched my coaching business today, with a podcast. And so I built an email list of graduates of the service academies, and I just emailed them all like these podcast interviews that I did of other graduates who were entrepreneurs and who had really cool success stories. So that's how I started. And I did that for probably the first 5 or 6 months before trying to launch any sort of a coaching program. And I wasn't exactly sure how I wanted to integrate coaching into it at the beginning. But today, there's 4 coaches, including myself, in the group. And we've got 4 different programs. We're launching 2 new programs this summer. So we'll probably have about 6 programs online, by the summertime. And we've got, just in the last 4 months, we've signed up 30 clients and hoping to grow that to, I'd like to have 60 clients by the end of the year. But that far exceeds like any of the amount of clients I had kind of previous to that point. So I guess what really helped me build my coaching business was focusing on a super tight niche. And then also forming alliances with other coaches and having them coach the different groups. We call them accelerator programs, but the different accelerators that, I wasn't qualified to coach, or I didn't have that skill set to coach. So,
yeah. Yeah, you found individuals that were different than you, even though they're the same, coming out of the academies, very different from a different skill set. If folks wanted to come out and look at your website for the Service Academy, so where would they go to view that? And by the way, I'll remind listeners, just listen to this and hit pause, then write it down or put it in your browser so you can go take a look at it. But where would they go to your site?
Sure. So it's SABM, so Service Academy Business Mastermind, SABMgroup.com.
SABMgroup.com. Great site. You get a really good look at kind of what you're doing and how it's laid out, and the excuse me, the coaches and the way the coaches line up. We're going to talk about that here in a second. I want to go back to the beginning, though, the genesis of this. Scott, when you were first, so you're getting ready to do a podcast, you've been thinking about trying to find this coaching niche. What was it like for the first, because you had to find a couple, right? You had to find that first person interview, right? You kind of had to find that first. Where did you draw? How did you find those first couple ones to be able to either get on your podcast or get some things started? Walk me through that process a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. So some of them were personal friends of mine. So it was, so that's kind of how I got started, was some friends that I knew, that graduated from a service academy that were entrepreneurs. But the very first person I had on the podcast, it was really kind of interesting. I found him on LinkedIn, and he founded a company called 9 Line Apparel, which, some of you listening may have heard of that. They do a large amount of sales. It's kind of like an edgy, patriotic type brand. And he was a West Point graduated in the class of 2008, I think. But I didn't know him at all. And so I just sent him a message on LinkedIn. I had no experience or like no previous podcasts. And I somehow convinced him to get on and be a guest. And I guess just because of that connection, that was a Service Academy graduate and I'm a Service Academy graduate, he welcomed the opportunity. So he was my very first guest, but it was very weird. I didn't know this person or even talk to this person like hardly at all before I hit record, maybe a few minutes. And so it was a little nerve wracking for me, that very first podcast interview. And so the first few, it was kind of, I had to, reach out to people and they weren't really sure what I was doing or what it was about. And so I, had to put on my sales hat, and get them on the podcast. But now, the guests kind of just keep rolling in. So it's been about a year. We've done 30, I think 29 or 30 podcasts I've published so far. And, so now it's a lot easier, but
yeah, it does get easier as you go. And the first couple are always awful. I just today I was doing some work for somebody and somebody asked me, hey, has Gallup done any work and have any numbers around those who are incarcerated or in prison? And so I was doing some searches on my own stuff, and I went all the way back to episode 5, season 1. And Jeremy and I we're sitting together and I look scared, and it's kind of, you're like, wow, how did that happen? But you can't get the great stuff until you've kind of done, right? You kind of done those first couple to kind of knock the dust off and get some things rolling. When did you know, at what point did you realize, hey, I think we're on to something here? This might be working. When did you know that?
I kind of knew right away. And I think with good business ideas, right away, whether it's going to work or whether it's not going to work. In my previous coaching ventures, I would launch things or try things and it was like crickets. And here, I think just with this podcast and this super tight niche, I think I had 100 downloads within the first couple of days. And so I knew that the audience, what I really liked about it, though, it wasn't about me. It was about I was focusing the podcast on my guests and their stories. And I think I really, really enjoyed that part of it. And I wasn't promoting anything that I was doing or selling or anything like that. And so it was easy for me to send out those podcast interviews to, a few thousand Service Academy graduates that I didn't know. But people listened and they really, really resonated with the stories. They learned from the stories. They connected. These are guests that, you can just connect with, and you can just shoot them messages on LinkedIn and ask them questions. And just because of the nature of the community, that's kind of how it works. A lot of podcasts that you listen to, the guests are, very exclusive. You might not be able to get them on the phone or that sort of thing. But these are like real life people, other, Service Academy graduates, just like the people listening. And, it seemed to work pretty well.
What kind of feedback have you been getting from your audience? Because that's the best part. Like whenever somebody says, "Hey, I've been listening," and they've got some feedback, what kind of feedback are you getting?
Well, they love I got this rapper who I had do the intro music, and I was like, I just kind of want this to be fun. So I found this rapper on Fiverr. That's a great resources for you guys listening. If you're looking for for talent, kind of on the cheap. I think I paid him like $50 or $60, and like he did a rap song with like backup singers and for the intro. So a lot of people like it's you either love it or you hate it. And so, but a lot of people are like, oh, like that's like when I'm listening to the podcast in the car with my kids, like my kids go crazy when they hear the rap song at the beginning. And so I mean obviously that's kind of a funny side point, but I get a lot of feedback on that. But like a lot of the people who come into the community, we also do online meetups, and we haven't talked about those yet. But this is a very, very effective, high value add for the people who listen to the podcast and other Service Academy graduates. Is we do online networking meetups. And so right now, I'm sure like strengths coaches as well, like, you might do a meetup or you might attend a meetup in your local community. And that's the way that most meetups kind of happen. And I was like, well, what if we connected our community online and we just had online meetups? So I started doing those a few months after I launched the podcast. And I would just invite people to our online networking meetups. And I get 25 to 30 people at every meetup. They're always full. And each person has 2 minutes to introduce themselves and just talk about like what challenges they have or who they're looking to connect with. And then we go on to the next person. And I email out a roster beforehand so you can see, who's going to be on the call, what academy they went to, when they graduated, what their website is and their business. And so those have been really effective as well. And so, but a lot of the people that attend the meetups are like, oh, I found out about the meetups by listening to the podcast. And so, I guess there's just a lot of people out there that like hearing these stories. And then, once they're in the community and they see how much value they can get just by coming to a free online networking meetup, it kind of, it's a good sign, that they might want to, invest in a coaching program like our accelerator program.
Yeah. So we'll come back to that here in just a second. I don't want to lose that as we talk about what you're doing with them, but you've piqued some interest in me. So you do a call, it's an hour long. You've got 25 people. They each have 2 minutes. Is that the entirety of the call? It's just people introducing themselves. And then is the anticipation that they'll hear something and be able to contact that person that they're interested in for a connection? Is that the way it works?
Yeah. So these are completely awesome. And so, if you're a coach and you're listening and you're trying to figure out like how to connect your community in a way that it hasn't been connected before. I can even just do like a screen share and show you exactly like what the event.
Why don't you?
Yeah. So, all right, let me just share my screen.
Are this audio and video, Scott?
Yes. Yep. So we do the calls on Zoom. So Jim, can you see my screen?
I can. Yes, you bet. You're full.
All right.
screen.
So here's our website. So the Service Academy Business Mastermind group. So on this page here, we've got the meetup page. And so right now our next meetup is May 22nd at 8 p.m. Eastern. So I do the calls at night so they don't interfere with anybody's day job. And so I do them on Zoom. And so you can see everybody, some people call in. So I would say out of the 25 or 30 people that sign up, maybe 4 or 5 call in by phone. And then the rest, they've got a live video feed. So you just go here and you sign up. So like our next one, I've already got 31 people signed up, and you can see all the people that are signed up.
Do you cap it?
At 35.
35. Okay.
And so once we hit 35, you can't register anymore, but you can kind of see all the people that are signed up. And this is just a great, great way to connect, to connect people in general. So, and that's how the meetups work. And I'll stop my screen share here, but that's been amazing, and that's free, absolutely free value that people get. So, but that's what it is. So it's 2 minutes per person we just make the rounds. There's a chat section, so people will leave a link to their site or ask questions or make a recommendation in the chat section. People will message each other throughout the call. I do them on Zoom. But the real magic happens afterwards. So like when you find 1 or 2 or 3 people that's where I find a lot of my podcast guests. That's where I found almost all of my accelerator coaches were at the meetups. Like there was, like we just launched a real estate investing accelerator program this week. So we've got about 15 people signed up for this accelerator program so far. We just launched it this week. And this is for people who want to learn about real estate investing, who want to get started. But the gentleman leading that, he lives out in California. He graduated from the Naval Academy in 2004. And he's got like this big real estate company. And I met him at a meetup like 2 months ago. And I'm like, hey, like, I think you'd be a perfect person to lead this group. But so that's what kind of happened. So that's like how I utilized the meetup to make a new connection that, really adds value to what I'm doing. But stories like that happen just all the time. Is like these people, maybe somebody's looking for venture capital, or maybe somebody's looking for some sort of an attorney or a business partner, whatever. Chances are, somebody at the meetup, it's either that person will be there for you, they'll just appear, or somebody's going to know somebody that can help you out. So I don't charge anything for these. I mean, they're completely free. And I think that that's kind of the way, and I think as a coach, it's good to have things like that add value for people so they can get to know you and get to know what your community is about, that you're not charging for. You know what I mean? Like, so that you can build trust and just really help out people in a giving way. So the meetups have been really, really, really cool. So
I like it. I may steal that from you, because I'd love to start coaching meetups around industry pillars, or verticals, and say, hey, let's do a healthcare. Everybody who's coaching folks in healthcare, we'll do 35. We'll get together. Maybe do a couple of them across time zones, and a really early one in the US time zone, and maybe one in Asia, or at least just 3 different times during the day. But I never thought you could just get people on a call to introduce themselves for 2 minutes and it would add value. Like, I've never heard of that actually working, but you're saying that's dynamite. Like, you're getting, and then the expectation is after the call, they can connect with each other. If they want, they have a list of who's on the call and they just connect. I'm always so content driven that I always think, no, you have to provide some content, right? And the content is the connection. Is that what you're saying?
I think it is. And I don't know if this is my includer strength that's really kind of helping me with this, build this community, looking at it from a strengths perspective. But that's really all it is. And I mean, and literally like when you think about like going to a meetup. So I live about 30 miles outside of Boston. If I wanted to connect with Service Academy graduates at a meetup in Boston, I'd have to drive into the city. I'd have to park somewhere. I mean, I would blow a half a day at this meetup, and I might get, see 15 or 20 people. My offer is that, hey, flip open your laptop at 8:00 tonight. You don't have to drive anywhere. There's going to be 25 or 30 awesome people online. The call is going to be under an hour. Most of the time we're in and out in 45 minutes. And then you just get on with the night. And so do
you have anybody that tries to go longer and you have to cut them off?
I don't know. I mean, there's like 1 or 2 people that, like, if it's their first meetup and they might go longer, but everybody, if anything, they go under 2 minutes, so we always make up the difference. And it's a lot of fun.
That's great. That's like Scott, that's a gem. You and I didn't even talk about that in the pre-show. And that's like a gem you just gave to me. Like, I think we could do some things like that again, like I said, among the Clifton's, our CliftonStrengths coaching community, with the 5,000 certified coaches and another 5,000 who are either going to be certified soon or are working on it. It'd be a great way, I would think, to get these, maybe I'll throw it in the Facebook group and take a vote. Like, okay, here's some verticals. Which will be the first one we do? And it's a great way to connect people. So thanks for sharing that, Scott. That's pretty awesome. I mean, that's a great way to I just wouldn't have believed that someone would show up for a call they're going to talk on for 2 minutes and be done. But what you're saying is, no, that's great value, because you're providing that call list afterwards to say, here's everybody that's on there. And if you want to contact them, go and do that. And then the rich conversations can happen after the fact.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love it. All right. Well, good. I want to talk a little bit about what you're doing from a business, because you're also growing coaches. And I don't know if you started this way, but you're kind of partnering with coaches on your site to bring them in different areas, right? You're finding these folks who have niches in these different verticals and you're bringing them in. Talk a little bit about that.
Right. So, I guess kind of my philosophy when I started this community was, I didn't want it to be about me. I wanted it to be about, Service Academy graduates and helping those grads who are entrepreneurs, who are out of the military, like build their businesses. And, there's only a small sliver, I think, of those entrepreneurs that I feel qualified to help. So I was like, well, what about this? Like, what if, and I kind of took the idea like that you guys Gallup had with the exchange. And I remember like all of the, I was like, what if I kind of had like this exchange idea, but for coaches within my program? So like my coaching program at SABM wasn't even the first one that I launched. So I like luckily connected with, actually, I think I met him at a meetup or LinkedIn. I think I was invited him to a meetup, and that's how we connected. But his name is Bill Watkins. He's a West Point class of 77 graduate, built an enormous business, I think in the medical device industry, sold it for a bunch of money 5 years ago. But he's been a coach like ever since. So for the last 4 or 5 years, like he's been a coach and he coaches entrepreneurs. And I'm like, who better to lead our first coaching program than a Service Academy graduate that built a multi-million-dollar business that is also a coach? Like that's a very rare combination. And so he leads one of our groups. It's called the 10X Business Accelerator. We actually just flew out to his ranch in Jackson Hole, Wyoming a couple of weeks ago for our very first live event. But I thought it was like, to have, and this is kind of maybe a strengths perspective, but to have like other coaches, besides myself, be coaches in the community and offer their skills and expertise. So, he leads a group. I've got somebody that leads an e-commerce group. So people that sell products online. We've got a coach for that. I've got the real estate investing coach. I'm launching an accelerator for real estate agents in a few weeks. And then I lead the side hustle group. So people with day jobs that have side hustles, but that's like the perfect niche for me. I don't feel like I'm like selling somebody like a coaching program that like I'm not qualified for. Right. So like, but it was just like, figuring out exactly like pinpointing like who I wanted to help, and then focusing on that very specific person, and then having these other coaches on board that can coach all the other people. So it's really been kind of interesting. And then from a development standpoint, all the coaches have different personalities. Some of them like to sell, some of them don't like to sell, some of them most of the accelerators are group coaching. So we'll have 8 to 10 people per accelerator on a call. One of our coaches doesn't really like that format. He's more of a one-on-one coach. So like, I didn't realize that like as we were launching his program, but kind of afterwards, he's like, Scott, I really want to just do one-on-one coaching. I think I'm more effective that way. So we designed his program around that. But it's been really interesting seeing like the different personalities, like the different characters that are the coaches and what they like, and then like helping them design their program based on their strengths. Mm-hmm. So
Scott, some of the magic may be you. I know your personality, and you're so easy to get along with. And so as a starting a group where you're bringing a whole bunch of people together and having to have them work together, that's sometimes like, especially you get egos involved, and that gets pretty difficult. How was it, or how has it been, and how did you guys work out the compensation bit of it? Because that's always the sticky part whenever you're starting to partner with other business people. I'm assuming they're coming to be a part of the site because it's already a platform. They don't have to create their own space. It's got some, it's helping them with some sales and stuff. But how did you form those actual partnerships to make sure? Because that gets really sticky sometimes.
Yeah. So I think it's like upfront, being very upfront with the prospective coaches right away with, kind of like how the program works. Like when we launched our first accelerator program that Bill leads, like he sent me an agreement. So like I was just like, hey, I think this is a good idea. This is kind of an experiment. What do you think? And so he sent me like a 1-page agreement, like a handshake deal, and so I kind of, but it's really good for me, like as a growing coach, to have somebody like that who's like way further down the road that has a coaching business, that's built a successful business, as a mentor, kind of helping me like develop these programs. So he was very, very helpful. So so it's just like when I bring a new coach on board, first of all, I'm only looking for the very best. And if I'm going to have a coach for beginning real estate investors, it's going to be the absolute best person that I can find. And once I find that person, then I just kind of talk about the like what we've got developed. Now that we've got 4 accelerators online, I can show the prospective coaches, hey, like this is what's happening. And then I work with them to create their package, whatever that might be, whether it's a monthly or so whatever it looks like, whether you want live events, whether you want to do like monthly online coaching groups, what just do you want to do one-on-one coaching? So I help them, so I take some of my coaching expertise to help them form their packages, because a lot of them aren't coaches. They're entrepreneurs, but they're so talented that I can kind of see that they'd be really helpful to other people in the program. And then I kind of help them with my coaching experience, form their coaching packages and to a product that they offer in our program. But a lot of these, another cool thing is like a lot of the coaches that I bring on board, like I want as my coach. And that's almost like the first thing that I look for. Is this somebody that I want to learn from? Like the guy who leads our e-commerce accelerator, like he's helped me triple the sales at StrengthsMugs like in the last 4 or 5 months, just from like what I've learned from him. So so that's kind of like where this, like the idea for like his accelerator came from. I'm like, hey man, like you've helped me out. Like I've like tripled my sales because of exactly what you told me to do. Do you want to be a coach here at this SABM? And and so he launched his e-commerce sales accelerator, but I'm in it. Like I'm a client. I'm like a client in all these accelerators. I'm not going to be in the real estate agent one because I'm not a real estate agent, but all the other ones, like I join and I learn. And
that's great. That's great. I think the statement that you made is like, I wanted coaching from them myself. And I think that's a great, right? It's a great testimony of like, who do I want to work with? Scott, can you bring up your site again one more time for me? I want you to walk through a little bit, not in detail on every single one, but kind of walk through as you think about those different areas that you have with each one of those coaches. How'd you set that up so people could find it?
Sure. So you can see my screen?
Yeah. You bet.
All right. So here's our accelerator program page. And so this is Bill. Bill leads our 10X Growth Accelerator. And, the niche that he coaches is Service Academy graduate business owners who earn at least $100,000 a year in business income. And so he does group coaching, one-on-one coaching, and live events. And then so if you want to learn more about his program, you click on that page. There's me. I think that was at the summit. The picture was
like it. It's a good one. It's a good summit
last summer. Yeah. And then so I lead the side hustlers. So, I mean, there's a lot of coaches that are side hustlers, right? They'd be perfect candidates for this accelerator. So, and that's my group. And then there's Emmanuel. He's my e-commerce rock star. So I've got calls with Emmanuel every month to try to figure out how to grow, StrengthsMugs sales. So
that's working, right? We'll talk about that here in a few minutes.
But so he's built a 7-figure, e-commerce business, and he worked at Amazon I think he led like a whole warehouse, one of those big Amazon warehouses, almost 1,000 employees. And then he went out on his own, built an e-commerce business. He's our e-commerce coach. There's Buddy. He's the real estate investing accelerator. And, I'm in that group as well. So for those that are just starting out in real estate investing. And then, so we're launching a real estate agent course in the next few weeks, and then a commercial real estate accelerator for the more advanced real estate investors. So all of the programs are based around helping somebody grow their business. And my goal is to have a program for everyone, whether they've got a $10 million or $20 million a year business, to whether they've got a day job and a side hustle that they're trying to launch out of their garage. And so that's kind of how I've got the program set up.
And Scott, you started with just one of these, right? This was kind of the situation where you were like, hey, we should do this. And it was one person, and then it kind of grew to two, and you've been bringing on kind of one at a time. And yet this idea of accelerators, you're kind of niche, right?
Absolutely. So this was the first accelerator that we launched, and we launched this one in January. So this was only 4 months ago that we launched his, and then I launched mine in February. Emmanuel's we launched last month. Buddies we're launching this month, or actually this week, and these other two will launch in the next month or two. So like this whole coaching program is less than 6 months old.
That's awesome. No, it's really good. I'm glad I didn't intentionally do this, but we've been stalling on having you on a little bit, just as I was thinking through some of the licensing stuff. And I was meeting with Jessica, who we just had on Called to Coach a couple of weeks ago to talk about licensing. And her and I, 2 or 3 months ago, said, we got to get all the licensees on a Call to Coach to talk about this. Well, the timing worked out perfect, because I think this is really powerful as you think about for coaches who are out there, who are working. I mean, you bring not only the idea of really owning your niche and getting in there. A great example is you're a side hustle guy, right? I love that you kind of identified that from, hey, that's what I did. I've actually done it. I'm not making it up. I have my own side hustle with these StrengthsMugs, and you're able to, create this accelerator. And I love that you call it an accelerator too. That's pretty cool as opposed to coaching. I love you mentioned coaching in that, but I love the fact that you're calling them accelerators. That's a really, really great term. Anything, have you had any issues, any stumbling points in this? As you say to people, if they're thinking about starting something like this, you would have them watch out for?
I think the only maybe stumbling block or lesson learned that I've had most recently is not all coaches are the same, right? Like, so you can't just box up like, what an accelerator is. And like when I launched, like Bill's group is a lot, maybe my group and Bill's group are very similar, because maybe me and Bill are very similar. But Emmanuel's group, he didn't want to have a group. Like he wanted to do one-on-one coaching, and like that was like where he thought he could deliver the highest impact. Like he wants to do one-on-one coaching and then fly out eventually, like once this entrepreneur builds a 7-8 figure e-commerce business, to fly out to their warehouse, because he's worked at Amazon, the biggest online retailer in the world, and help them like manage their operation. Like, so I think for me, it was just learning the different personalities of the coaches, and then helping them structure their programs in a way that made sense, so I could kind of help them from my experience as a coach, but I really had to leave the design of the actual accelerator up to them. And then with this real estate investing accelerator, like this has been one of our most popular ones. Buddy just wanted to do just a webinar launch. Like he's like, I don't have time to talk to all the people that are going to be interested in this. And so like we centered launching his entire program around 2 webinars, one that we did last week and one we're going to do this Saturday. And that's it. Like there's no phone calls. And, unless maybe it's a friend or somebody that reached out, like there's no, like all the other coaches, like we set up phone calls and, hey, do you want to join the program? This is what it's about. Buddy was like, I just want to do it on a webinar, and that's it. And so I was like, okay, we'll see what happens. But we've had more people sign up to that one than all the other ones. Like, and that's been the most popular one. And I think because like there's a lot of people out there that, want to invest in real estate. And so that is an accelerator that maybe hit a larger target market of, the folks that are in our community. But so that's been really interesting, is just learning about everybody's different like personalities, and like trying to help them come up with a business model that made sense for who they were as a coach and as a person.
Scott, if we had an academy grad who wanted to get in contact with you, or another coach who maybe wanted to even take your coaching on the side hustle, because coaching can sometimes be a side hustle, right? What's the best way for them to contact you?
Sure. Yeah. So my email address, scott@sabmgroup.com. You can just email me or just head on over to sabmgroup.com, and there's a contact page, and that the contact page goes right to my email once you complete that.
There's a lot of great advice there. I would think, as a coach, I might be interested. You have a website set up, and a lot of coaches struggle with just like, how do I create this e-commerce website for coaching? We're going to talk about, like I said, we're going to talk about the StrengthsMugs, which is a separate e-commerce site in itself, I'm sure. But and how do I set that up? And I'm sure Scott would love to maybe be a coach to jump in there and help you with your side hustle if you're going to do it that way. Let's talk about your side hustle, because this is really kind of cool. A mug appeared on my desk a couple years ago that had all my themes on it. Very, very simple. At that point, not quite licensed. You've become a license holder here at Gallup, which means we can talk about it, we can promote it, and those kinds of things. But Scott, walk me through a little bit of your business selling these mugs. And it's not just mugs. So what else are you selling? And talk about the mugs.
Sure. Yeah. So, our most popular product is the Strengths mug. I've got mine right here. So it's just a coffee mug with your top 5 strengths, and we can do top 10 mugs too, something that we recently added. So top 5 on one side.
Oh, nice. I have an OG one, by the way. I'm just going to say mine was the early days. We don't even have the trademark symbol.
That's right. So those are worth a lot of money these days. So
OG on my desk, top 5 only, no trademark. Yeah.
Or we could put your name on the other side as well, or initials. But we also do t-shirts. I'm wearing one of our t-shirts. It just has the CliftonStrengths logo on the front, and then top 5 on the back.
Nice.
And it's a really nice t-shirt. And so like this was kind of really, so again, kind of going back to, the entrepreneurial mindset. I know a lot of the coaches listening, they're building coaching businesses, creating packages, trying to find customers. This was a business that I started, from solving one of my own problems. So a lot of the early clients that I had that were coaching clients, I thought like a great gift that I could send to them, like, after they signed up for coaching with me, was a coffee mug with their top 5 strengths. And so I would just go on to like I forget the name of what the website was. But I'd have to like type in the strengths and then make sure they were all centered on the mug. And it took a lot of time. But when the clients got the mugs, like they're like, wow, like this is a really cool gift. I really love this. And so, I was thinking like, well, what if there was an online store where you could just easily order a coffee mug with your top 5 strengths, and all the strengths would be preloaded in drop down menus. And it was super simple. So that was the idea. When I had the idea, like, it took me like probably a few months or a half a year to like, like figure it out. Like, because I wasn't sure like how to build an online store. I wasn't sure like if you could even print coffee mugs like this. Like, I know you could do one of them, like maybe, but print shops don't want to print just one thing. They want to print like 50 or 100 or 1,000 things. So like I had no idea how this, like if this idea would even come to life. But as an aspiring entrepreneur, I was like, man, like I just want to figure this out. Like I just want to solve this problem and see if like I can take it from idea to, a real life business. And so I literally, like I had my coffee mug in my car, like on the way to work. I left it like right there in the passenger seat, like for a couple of months, like, and I would just have to stare at it. As I was like calling print shops, as I was trying to figure out like, hey, can you guys do customized orders? And just trying to figure out the whole fulfillment piece, because I didn't want to have to do any of that stuff myself. And so finally, probably after the 20th print shop that I found somebody actually locally who kind of got me in business. They said, yeah, we can do these. And it's not a problem. So, I worked with them to get the design right. And then I had to figure out the online store piece, and I wasn't sure how to build an online store. And so I went to a web designer that I knew, and he's like, dude, like if I built this store that you want built, like it's going to cost you like 10 grand. He's like, why don't you use Shopify? And at that point, like I had never even heard of Shopify. But so I went to Shopify and bought the website and got set up. And then for like less than $500, like I was in business, but I still wasn't sure if I had a customer. I knew that my clients liked the mugs. I didn't know if somebody would pay for a Strengths mug. So I had my site set up. I had the print shop set up. And on a Friday afternoon, I was like, I think when like before you launch things, you're kind of afraid. And I was like everything's set up. Like, why haven't I told anybody about this yet? so it's like, it's literally like Friday afternoon at like 4:00, and I'm like wrapping up for the day at work or whatever. And I go into the Gallup, it used to be the Called the Coach Facebook group. I know the name has changed since then. And there's like 5,000 or 6,000 people in the group. And I'm like, hey, I created this online store where you can order, would you like to order a Strengths mug with your top 5 strengths on it? And then I had a picture of my mug and then a link to the store. And I had a sale within the first 3 minutes. And I was like, wow, like this is like the first successful thing that I've ever done, like from an entrepreneurial standpoint. Like, like that was like, it just worked. Like, so like, I think when you have these business ideas, like, pretty quickly whether it's a good idea or it's not a good idea. And then so I had some customers right away from the Gallup Facebook group. But then I tweeted Michael Hyatt. And so Michael Hyatt is a best-selling author. He's got hundreds of thousands of followers on Twitter. And I knew he had taken the Strengths Finder. So my entire launch was a Facebook group post and a tweet to Michael Hyatt. And I just tweeted him. I said, hey, Michael, your #1 achiever strength would look great on a Strengths mug. And then I put a link to the store. And then I closed my computer, went home. And then so like, as I was driving, I'm like, I don't know if I was at a stoplight or I don't know. I was checking my phone while I was driving. And I saw like Michael Hyatt mentioned you like in a comment or like retweeted your tweet or something. So I'm like looking at this. And so he shared it with like hundreds of thousands of people and said he was buying them for everyone on his team. And so orders started to come in over the weekend, like from church leaders, from people that follow him, the thread of his books. And so I was in business. So that was my launch. But I mean, Michael Hyatt is still a customer today. So he orders mugs for every new employee that he gets on the team. He's got it's great. But so that's kind of how we got started.
No, it's a great story because I think it's an unexpected success. You didn't really know. And you're kind of scared to death. And it's many times as those ideas work, more often they don't. You're like, oh, I'm going to try this thing, and you do everything right, and then it still doesn't work. And you kind of, like you said, Friday afternoon, worst possible time to ever announce anything. Like Facebook and LinkedIn, all that stuff goes dead on the weekends. Twitter goes dead, a little bit for that kind of stuff. And you got a break. We always say all the time, sometimes the difference between a successful product and an unsuccessful product is a break. You got a break on it. And so what have you learned? Like, just give me a couple things and we're running short on time, but give me a couple things that you think you learned through getting this thing started.
Sure. So I think one of the big lessons, well, right off the bat, what I learned is that you just, you've got to, we have a lot of ideas. There's lots of people out there with like lots of business ideas. But I would say like just challenge yourself to just create that product, that minimum viable product, whatever that is, whether it's a mug, whether it's a coaching package, whether it's, I don't know, like whatever it might be. Just take action and just get it out there. Just get it out there to people. See if they like it and get some feedback. I think the second big thing was that like I couldn't do it alone. And that's, I guess, linking StrengthsMugs with the Service Academy Business Mastermind group. I created that around, I kind of created it to form this community around like with people like me who have these ideas, who are launching these businesses, like as a support group. So, so I think the Service Academy Business Mastermind group kind of stemmed from my challenges with StrengthsMugs in that I couldn't do it alone. So the folks that I've connected with along the way, like Emmanuel, who's our e-commerce coach now, like he's somebody that has helped me out. He's built the type of business that I want to build. And I've learned a lot from him and all of the other people in the community. So, you can't do it alone. And then, just get the idea, do whatever you can to get the idea out of your head into fruition, into a minimum viable product.
Good advice. And sometimes they work. Have you had any projects that you've been working on that didn't work?
Yeah, most of them haven't worked. I've had a lot of stuff that I think a lot of my early coaching packages and stuff didn't work. It wasn't that I was a bad coach or that, it just was, I was too general in what I was trying to offer, like, hey, I'm going to launch a course on goal setting. Great. Like, well, who's your customer going to be? And I found some good clients, and through those clients, I kind of figured out like who I really wanted to form a coaching business around. But I don't know how many like coaching programs or courses I tried to launch that just like crickets. And like, so I think like, but what's good now is that each new idea is better than the last one. I think StrengthsMugs was kind of like my first idea that, that people liked. Service Academy Business Mastermind group. That's like another idea. I think it's a lot bigger than Strengths, obviously, a lot bigger, have bigger impact than StrengthsMugs. I'm going to join Buddy's real estate investing course, and I'll launch a real estate business. But I think like each idea gets better and better, like over time, like each new idea. So that's just keep launching.
Keep trying. Anything on the retail side? Anything else you're going to add when we think about mugs and when we think about your shirts? Anything else you're thinking about adding that you're willing to talk about?
I think actually a product that kind of snuck up as one of our top sellers is the tumbler. So we've got a 30 ounce. It's a Yeti style tumbler. It's 30 ounces, and people like really like that. So that's actually our second best selling product behind the ceramic coffee mug is the tumbler. But people just really like I think that those are the best products, or the products that kind of tie into somebody's habit, whether it's drinking coffee or tea. And what a great place to put your strengths, right there on something that you use every single day. And so, I guess from a strengths perspective, I just try to focus on the top sellers, and I try other things. I have a blanket. I really love the blanket, but nobody has bought the blanket. So I challenge somebody today, even though we're going into summer, maybe you live in northern Michigan or something.
Southern hemisphere is going on. So.
The blanket is really, really cozy, and it's awesome. And I use mine like every day. So it's the Strengths blanket. I'm going to make a pitch today for the Strengths blanket, if that's okay.
Yeah, no, right on. Let's sell a few more of those. Scott, you were our very first licensee. And in those days, well, sometimes we really struggled to get it all put together to figure this thing out. But thanks for working with us and getting through it and getting the process in place. And it was fun to have you come. I think you were here on site when you signed the agreement with us. And so super fun to have you in there. I think a great product, especially in these areas of gifts, right? That's the one thing, get it in somebody's daily habit, but also, great gift. It's a great gift item that you can give to somebody for a birthday, an anniversary, or that. In companies, these are great when they're consistent and they're delivered for whatever reason, whether it's an anniversary, work anniversary, whatever, 5-year, something like that, a really lot of value. I'm sure you're seeing a lot of companies buy them for those kind of gift reasons as well. Is that right?
Absolutely. Those are, my best customers are the Fortune 500 companies that buy them in bulk, for their employees when they do a new training or they introduce new folks to the Strengths Finder assessment. And so, so we've got, big companies that buy these. We have coaches that buy these for their clients. And we just have people that love the Strengths Finder that just order one for themselves and their spouse. And that's fine too. Like it doesn't, we had customers of all different types, but I really love the customers. I really enjoy, helping them out and seeing their reaction when they get the Strengths mugs. And we also have a page on our site called Mug Shots. And so like we encourage folks to share pictures of their Strengths mug, and we call them Mug Shots. And so we get lots of those shares on Instagram and Twitter as well. So if you have a Strengths mug, we'd love to see your mug shot.
Yeah, I haven't done this yet. I need to get one for my wife and that I have at home. because I don't like I know her top 5, but I couldn't tell you hers like I know mine. And so I think I'm going to get one and put it on there's over our sink. We have this window, like a garden window. And I think I'm going to buy it and set it there. So whenever I'm helping out with the dishes or whatever, I'll see her top 5 right there. And better than a plaque, because she could use it for a coffee. So maybe I'll make her a latte in it from time to time. Scott, thanks for coming on. Great to catch up with you. There was a couple comments in the chat room. They appreciated this one. Brian says, Jim, Scott, one of the best calls yet. Thanks for keeping it real. And thanks for your military service. I'll echo that as well. Appreciate that. Lots of good comments out in the chat room. And Scott, thanks for coming on. You hang on tight for 1 second and let me wrap this thing up with the listeners. Remind everyone to take full advantages of all the resources we have available at the Gallup Strengths Center, just gallupstrengthscenter.com. Send us your questions or comment. If you'd like to be a guest blogger, we've got some spaces for that as well. If you want to join us on the coach's blog, send that fully kind of thought through. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just send it to us. 400 to 600 words is kind of what we're looking for. Put it in an email, put guest blogger in the subject line, and then put the words in the text area, send it to us, coaching@gallup.com. You can also catch recorded audio and video of this program, as well as all the past ones, on our coaches blog, coaching.gallup.com. If you're interested in becoming a Gallup certified strengths coach, you can see a list of all of our courses that lead to that, including some discounts going on right now if you come during the summit. Scott, are we going to see you for the summit? Are you coming out?
I'm not sure if I'm going to make it. I'll try to make it.
Disappoint me.
We're in the process of moving. So
yes,
I'm not sure if I'm going to.
Then you get a gimme for the year. We'll give you.
I've been to the last 2.
We'll give you a pass for this year. We'll miss you, but if you're interested in taking a course during our summit, you can head out to the summit page, CliftonStrengthsSummit.com, or a list of all of our courses are available at courses.gallup.com. Scott talked about the Facebook group, and it's almost 11,000 now. You can jump out there and join us. Facebook.com/groups/called-to-coach, all one word. And we used to call it that, but then we created a whole bunch more. I got a little entrepreneurial myself, Scott, and we created a whole bunch more Gallup Webcasts. We have a bunch of them now in English and in Spanish, and we're doing all kinds of crazy things with them. So we just call that page Gallup Webcasts, and we'd love to have you out there. You can find me out there, and we'd love to have you join us. We do these very often. If you haven't figured that out yet, head out to our Eventbrite page, just gallup.eventbrite.com. I want to thank you for joining us today. And with that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.